May 16, 1968. A brand new, gleaming 22-story tower of concrete stands in the East London borough of Newham. It's just 2 months old, and honestly, it represents the absolute bright future of British post-war housing.
It's exactly 5:45 in the morning, and a resident named Ivy Hodge wakes up in her flat on the 18th floor. She walks into her kitchen. She's just going to make a simple cup of tea. She turns on her gas stove, strikes the match. Just a tiny spark. But instantly, a small buildup of gas ignites, creating what investigators would later call a modest explosion. Now, normally, an event like this would cause maybe a few cuts and a really terrible scare. The blast throws Ivy violently right across the room, but miraculously, she survives. But while Ivy survives, her building doesn't. The force of that modest blast just blows out the load-bearing flank wall of her corner flat. And because that specific wall was actually holding up the corner of the flat above it, the floor of the 19th-story flat instantly loses its support and drops directly onto the 18th floor. That sudden, immense impact is just too much. The floor gives way. In a matter of seconds, an entire column of concrete floors falls in a vertical line. The entire southeast corner of the tower peels away from top to bottom, one floor pancaking onto the next, all the way down to the ground. 4 people are killed, 17 are injured. And by the time the sun comes up, photographs of this gleaming, 2-month-old tower block are splashed across front pages all over the world. 22 stories sheared open. Living rooms and kitchens totally exposed to the open air, almost like a broken doll's house. So you have to ask yourself, how does a single spark, a completely mundane kitchen accident, destroy an entire corner of a modern high-rise? To solve that mystery, we really have to dig into the investigation led by Hugh Griffiths, because what his team found literally changed architecture forever. And right away, the inquiry delivered a massive surprise. Remember that gas explosion? It was actually remarkably weak. The blast pressure registered well within normal, survivable limits. It was the kind of pressure that any normal building should have just shrugged off, which means the villain wasn't the gas at all. The fatal vulnerability was hiding in plain sight. It was the structure itself. To really understand why, we need to look at 2 distinct methods of building. In conventional architecture, a structure has built-in redundancy. Basically, there are multiple paths for the immense weight of the building to travel down to the foundations. If one element fails, the load just finds another route. But Ronan Point wasn't conventional. It was built using something called a large panel system. This was a method designed to build post-war housing faster and way cheaper by basically assembling towers, story by story, from pre-made slabs. But the terrifying reality of that specific system was this. These massive, factory-made concrete panels were trucked to the site and then essentially just bolted and grouted together. They were holding each other up primarily by friction and gravity. It's like a giant puzzle with nothing tying the pieces together. Absolutely no backup support. If a single wall vanished, there was no alternative load path. The whole building depended entirely on every single panel staying exactly where it was placed. Which brings us to a really crucial engineering concept: disproportionate collapse. Because Ronan Point's panels totally lacked any alternative load paths, the exact moment Ivy Hodge's corner wall blew out, the collapse just ran away under its own weight. A massive, catastrophic failure triggered by one tiny, highly localized event. And it gets worse. Investigators uncovered some truly shocking specifics hiding inside those joints. They found incredibly poorly made connections between the massive panels. Even more terrifying, gaps that were strictly supposed to be packed solid with mortar were in some places left completely empty. It was shoddy workmanship that practically guaranteed the building's doom the second a load shifted. The fallout from this revelation was absolutely massive. Public enthusiasm for fast, cheap, high-rise living instantly soured into total suspicion. Similar towers across Britain were evacuated, inspected, or just straight up demolished. But the most permanent change was to the law itself. Global building codes were rewritten forever to mandate structural redundancy. From then on, a building absolutely must be designed so the failure of one single element cannot bring down a disproportionate part of the whole. Ronan Point changed everything. But the story of the actual tower has a second, deeply unsettling twist that a lot of people don't see coming. Despite the horrific collapse in 1968, they actually repaired the tower. People moved back in, but as you can probably guess, they never trusted it. Almost 2 decades later, terrified residents finally forced the building's complete deconstruction.
In 1986, it was dismantled, painstakingly, floor by floor.
And taking the building apart piece by piece revealed the final, terrifying truth. It was even more fragile than anyone thought. That careful deconstruction exposed even more hidden, shoddy workmanship inside the joints, stuff the original inquiry completely missed. The dismantling basically proved the absolute worst fears of the residents. They had been living in a fragile house of cards the entire time. The dream of a prefabricated concrete future completely collapsed the moment the rush to build fast and cheap collided with the totally unforgiving physics of gravity, leaving us staring right back at the sheared open rooms of a concrete doll's house, forced to ask the question that still haunts engineers to this day. What happens to a massive structure when just one small part refuses to stand?